third example was for a full inner pop-up. Now, this is the point where the measurements that Jennifer McGuire uses don't quite fit our cards. So this is what Jennifer McGuire suggested. She said 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches, so it's actually a square piece of cardstock she used, and then again a 3/4 inch score. Then she scored at 4 inches and 4 3/4 inches, so that gives you the 3/4 inch, 3/4 inch, 3/4 inch on your strips. And because our cardstock's actually slightly taller, if you really want it to fill most of the inside, as you can see, this is a bit short. So if you want it to really fill the inside of your card so you don't have this big white border, I would suggest that you make your piece of cardstock 5 3/4 inches tall. So the height is the height of the card you want to stick it into. So you end up with 5 3/4 inches if you want it for the full height. Now, this one, it does fit just, but it's pretty tight. Once it's folded, it tends to push it over a little bit. So you end up with only a very narrow bit here that you could write a message on. So you could leave it at the 5.5 by 5.5 that Jennifer McGuire uses, and it would be slightly shorter and it'd be very tight on the edges. What I actually did was make it 1/4 inch taller and then 1/4 inch narrower. So this is how I was going to use this, and as you can see, it gives you a bit more space here to write your message or your greeting. So here we go, that would be like this when it's folded, and it just gives you a bit of space so that when it's folded it hides slightly better. So the measurements that I used were 5 3/4 is the height, 5 1/4 is the width, and then I scored at 3/4 inch, then at 3 3/4, and at 4.5 inches, which gives you your 3 panels the same size. I haven't actually got an example of that one finished, but I'll show you what I'm going to do with it. And it will help you show you one of the things that Jennifer didn't show a lot of was how to work out where to put your die cuts on the front of your card. So I thought it might be useful to see this. This is the size that I have said, so it fits inside the card, and you end up gluing this piece and then obviously the other flap at the back. So when your card is closed, that's how it sits on your card. So the way I've been working out how to put my die cuts in, if I want them kind of arranged neatly, is like this. So I've ignored this line, that was me scoring it in the wrong direction, that wouldn't be there normally. I thought I would pop these little pandas on here. These are from a Stampin' Up! Celebration set that was out earlier this year, and I cut them out and stamped them and cut them out quite a while ago, and I haven't used them yet, but my daughter has a friend who loves pandas, and she moved to Madrid, so she's missing her, so I thought we could do "Hi, miss you" on their little envelopes, and when you open the card she'll see the message. So I thought with these, the easiest way would be to just work out. So I've been using a T ruler, but you could just use a normal ruler if you're good at lining it up and making it square. I've been sitting my panel as it will be folded inside. So you need your top flap unfolded and your bottom flaps folded out of the way. So that's what the inside, how it will sit once it's on the inside. Oh, and this, by the way, works for a side fold as well. I'm just using it as a in landscape rather than portrait for this one. So you need your top edge just inside the fold of the card, and put your straight edge or whatever it is you're using, and position your little images pretty much where you want them. On this particular example, my side to side spacing doesn't matter so much, but I'm more worried. I would like my little faces to show on my pandas, but not their little envelopes. So I think about there will work. So that's the point on my card that I want the top of my die. So hold things in place more or less, take that out of the way, put my die back, and then I can tape it. And because I actually want to cut 3 in this instance, I could then, as I know that's the height, I can find the centre. So we're just under 15 centimetres, so that would be roughly back there. That's the centre more or less. So I could then tape that one on with a little bit of tape, take that away, go die cut that one, and then come back and line up the other 2 equal distance apart, so that then when I put this inside, I know that I can stick my pandas so that their little faces are in the right place. So that was one of the ways I was working out where to put my die cuts before I'd made my panels. I thought I'd also show you, this is a nearly finished example. This is another one of the sort of seaside panels with my little seahorse on it, and this is using this is my own size one, made again to fit the panel that I've made. So when this is in the card, it will look like that. So how, if I stick my panel on inside here, how do I know if I want the little seahorses' heads peeping out, where to put them? Well, the way I came up with is, again, you could temporarily tape all this in place if you wanted to, but what I did was I just held everything in place, more or less lined up my panel, and I got my little dies and decided this one was going to go here, more or less, and I don't want this tape on it. This one was going to go here, and I know that's not going to hang off the edge because this is the only bit that's going to. And what I used to stick them in the right place, this is one of those sticky all over post-it notes, which I got in Ryman's, somewhere like that, but they're the sticky all over ones. I think mine came in a set with large ones and 2 smaller sizes, and I use these all the time for masking because they're sticky all over. So I got one of my super sticky post-its. My head might get in the way at this moment, sorry if it does, and I lined it up with the top corner of my card. I've not done that very well because I can't really lean over, you won't see what I'm doing, but the idea is line it up with the top of your card, stick your dies to it, and lift it off with the dies, and now I can stick that back down to more or less where I had it, which if I've lined up the top corner would be better. Then I can take that away with my dies and run that through my die cut machine as it is, and then when I come to stick this piece in, all I need to do is line it back up with my holes, and hopefully they'll be in the right place. So that was one way I came up with of how to put my windows where I wanted them if I'd already made a panel, because this time I wanted the seahorse to be holding on to the weed, and if I tried to do that after I'd cut the windows, I wouldn't have been able to line them up. So that was the way I came up with to get my windows where I wanted them. So hopefully that's useful to somebody. So hopefully again I'll finish that one and show you the finished one on my blog. The last size that Jennifer talked about was for a top fold card. And we don't get very many card blanks in the UK that are top fold, but they're really easy to create if you've got A4 paper. these were cut from beautiful ombre A4 paper, which is ombre top to bottom, and if you cut it into a carte blanche in the other direction, you lose most of the ombre effect. So I thought I'd use these as note cards, and all I did was cut an A4 piece of paper in half and score it in the centre to get my carte blanches. So these are still exactly the same size as your standard A6 card. They're just top fold note cards. And this is now, because our card is narrower, this is another case where Jennifer's measurements don't work. So Jennifer McGuire's measurement was for your panel to be 4¼ inches. Now hopefully you can just about see that this is actually only 4⅛ inches wide. So 4¼ inches would stick out. So what I did was I went for the same 6-inch height that Jennifer used. She used 6 inches by 4¼ and I used 6 by 4, which is quite easy to remember. So this one is 6 by 4 because I realised that Jennifer's wasn't going to work instantly. So Jennifer's would have stuck out at the edges by 1/8 inch. So this one at 6 by 4 fits perfectly. So you can, all you need to do is shrink the width of this one, and you can leave the score lines in the same place, so it would sit inside the card like that. So you get a nice space at the bottom where you can write your message on this one as well, because our card's actually slightly longer than American cardstock, so actually we get a slightly bigger section at the bottom, but I think proportionally it still seemed fine to me. If I show you an example, I actually left this example ever so slightly unfinished because I think it's nice to see that people mess up so you don't get too disheartened. This is really shiny cardstock and I had problems stamping on it, so I think you can probably see quite clearly that that's a terrible stamp. So to fix it, all I did was I stamped myself a little panel, cut it out square and put some foam tape on the back, and I'd left it off literally to show you that we all mess up. And there we go, it's fixed. So don't get frustrated with stamping, it goes wrong for everybody sometimes. So now here's my finished example, and I thought I would take the opportunity, seeing as I'd already had to make this a little bit 3D. The beauty of all the others is they're all pretty much flat, so for postage purposes they won't need a large stamp, they'll just go as a standard size stamp. But I thought I'd take the opportunity to add a little bit of bling, and this was the only example where I actually inlaid the aperture that I'd cut out back inside because I quite liked the ombre effect of the card. So this one, when you open her up, there she is on the inside, and I didn't put any of the gems on the inside because obviously then it wouldn't fold closed so well, but I thought it was really cute having her little feet hanging off the bottom, and there's still plenty space here to write your message. So this was, I thought because it was cute that you can't see the crown, so I did a happy birthday ... and put princess on the inside, so happy birthday princess. So I like that example. So I'll put all the measurements which you can keep the same and all the ones that I altered slightly, I'll put all that information on my blog post with hopefully lots of photos. And thanks for stopping by, hope it was useful to somebody. Bye.